Junho Kim, a man whose name carried whispers in the underworld, had never imagined a morning like this. The soft steam rising from his porcelain teacup filled the penthouse with a calm he rarely felt. For a man who controlled empires from the shadows, solitude was a rare luxury, and one he clung to fiercely. Today, like every day, he was alone, savoring the quiet. But peace, as life often proved, could be fragile. A soft knock echoed through the room, hesitant yet insistent. Junho frowned, adjusting the cuff of his tailored sleeve as he set down the cup. Visitors at this hour were unusual, unwelcome even, and yet something about the knock felt different. When he opened the door, he was met with a small, unexpected sight. Two children, nearly identical, peeked up at him with wide, curious eyes. Their hands clutched each other's tightly, a lifeline of trust and fear. Behind them stood a woman, tall and graceful, with eyes that held a mix of worry and quiet determination. "My name is Ayana," she said softly, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "These are Mia and Leo. We need help." The twins glanced at him, shy yet hopeful, their tiny voices almost a whisper. "Pretend you're our father," they said, a request that hung in the room like a fragile promise. Junho blinked. The words felt strange, almost foreign to his carefully controlled life. A mafia boss, feared by many, yet here he was, confronted by a plea for care and protection from three strangers. His first instinct was to refuse, to retreat behind the walls he had built over decades. But as he looked at Ayana's calm yet earnest gaze, and at the children holding on to each other as if the world depended on it, something stirred within him. A flicker of warmth, a call to responsibility that had nothing to do with power or fear. "Very well," he said finally, his voice low but steady. "I will help, for now." Ayana's relief was quiet but undeniable. The twins' faces lit up with smiles that seemed to brighten the entire room. Junho closed the door behind them, and for the first time in years, the penthouse felt less like a fortress and more like a home in waiting. That day marked the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. A journey of trust, laughter, and a love that would slowly grow in the most unexpected of places. Ayana had never expected to walk into a world so different from her own. The penthouse was pristine, every surface gleaming, every corner organized to a level that made her heart race in quiet awe. She watched as Junho moved with precise control, his every gesture calculated yet effortless. He was intimidating, yes, but there was something else beneath the surface. A calm strength that made her feel oddly safe. The twins, Mia and Leo, ran ahead, their laughter bouncing softly against the marble floors. Junho's eyes followed them, his usual stoicism softening ever so slightly. He knelt down, fixing Leo's crooked bow tie with surprising tenderness, while Mia tugged at Ayana's sleeve. "Will he really take care of us?" she asked, her small voice full of curiosity and worry. "He will," Ayana whispered back, feeling the weight of the responsibility she had brought into this strange new world. And, against her better judgment, she believed it. The day passed in a blend of chaos and warmth. Junho was a careful observer, rarely intervening unless necessary, yet when the twins stumbled or cried, his arms were there in a heartbeat. Ayana noticed the small gestures, the soft brush of a hand across a tear-streaked cheek, the quiet murmurs meant only for the children. He wasn't just watching them, he was protecting them. Mealtimes were an adventure. Ayana tried to introduce simple dishes, but Junho's precise, almost formal habits clashed hilariously with the twins' messiness. He frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the noise and disorder, yet Ayana caught him smiling briefly when Mia smeared a dollop of sauce across Leo's cheek. Later, when the children were finally tucked into bed, Ayana found herself standing in the living room with Junho. The penthouse was quiet again, shadows stretching across the polished floors. "Thank you," she said softly. "I know this isn't easy for you." Junho met her gaze, his dark eyes steady, thoughtful. "It's different," he admitted. "But not unpleasant." He stepped closer, just enough for warmth to brush against her arm. It was a subtle gesture, yet it carried reassurance, a silent promise that he would not abandon them. Ayana felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. The day's chaos had softened the edges of his formality, revealing a man capable of tenderness, a man who might one day be more than a temporary guardian. As she left him to his thoughts, she realized this was only the beginning. Life with Junho, with the twins, was going to be unpredictable, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was going to be something beautiful. Mornings in the penthouse had begun to feel less like routine and more like a quiet ritual. Junho brewed his tea with the same precision as always, steam curling delicately from the cup, while Ayana and the twins arranged the small breakfast table. The room was filled with soft chatter, punctuated by the occasional giggle or clatter of a spoon. For a man who had spent years surrounded by power and danger, these simple sounds were almost foreign. He watched Ayana move gracefully between the twins and the kitchen, her patience unwavering, her smile gentle even when Mia and Leo bickered over who would get the first pancake. It was strange, he thought, how a single person could bring such warmth to a place that had always felt cold and controlled. After breakfast, they settled in the living room. Ayana sat cross-legged on the floor with the twins leaning against her, while Junho remained near the window, holding his teacup, eyes soft but guarded. The children chattered about their schoolwork, their favorite cartoons, and the park they wanted to visit, filling the space with innocent excitement. Ayana turned to Junho, curious. "Do you ever just enjoy moments like this?" she asked, careful not to sound intrusive. He paused, considering. I rarely allow myself the time," he admitted quietly. "But perhaps I should." There was a vulnerability in his voice, subtle yet powerful, one that few ever heard. Encouraged, Ayana leaned slightly closer. "It doesn't make you weak," she said. "It's human to need a little peace." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Junho shifted slightly, as if aware of the closeness but unsure how to respond. Without thinking, Ayana reached out, lightly resting her hand on his arm. The contact was fleeting but comforting, a silent connection that neither needed to define yet. The twins noticed the quiet moment but didn't interrupt, instead curling closer to Ayana, their laughter filling the space once more. Junho allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile. He had always been in control, always measured, yet here with Ayana and the children he felt something entirely new, belonging. As the morning light spilled into the room he realized this laughter, this warmth, was something worth protecting. And maybe, just maybe, someone worth opening his heart to. The penthouse, usually so orderly and silent, had been transformed into a battlefield of giggles, scattered toys, and small disasters. Mia had painted Leo's face with crayons, Leo had spilled juice on the rug, and Ayana was laughing despite herself as she tried to clean up the mess. Junho watched from the doorway, arms crossed, a faint frown creasing his forehead. For someone used to control, this was chaos at its finest, and yet he felt something stir inside him that he hadn't expected. It wasn't annoyance or frustration. It was warmth. When Mia tumbled off the couch, Junho was there in an instant, catching her with ease. His arms, strong and steady, held her gently as she giggled, the crayon marks smudged across her cheeks. Ayana's eyes softened as she watched him, noticing the way his stern expression melted into a rare, private smile. "You're very fast," she said quietly, handing him a towel to wipe the juice from Leo's hands. I have experience with unpredictable situations," Junho replied, his tone neutral but his eyes betraying a subtle fondness. The twins, sensing the attention, scrambled to his side, tugging at his sleeves. "Play with us," Leo demanded, wide-eyed. Junho hesitated, unsure at first. But Ayana stepped closer, giving him an encouraging nod. Slowly, he lowered himself to the floor, the stiffness in his posture softening as he joined the twins in their world. They built towers of blocks, laughed when they fell, and even taught him a silly dance. Junho's laughter was quiet at first, but soon it became genuine, filling the room in a way it hadn't in years. At one point, Ayana found herself sitting next to him, brushing a stray strand of hair from his face. Their hands touched briefly, a fleeting, comfortable closeness that neither needed to acknowledge with words. The moment was simple, yet it carried a weight neither could ignore: trust, comfort, and the beginnings of something deeper. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden light across the room, Junho helped tuck the twins into bed. Ayana lingered behind, and for the first time she saw him truly relax, free from the walls he usually built around himself. "Thank you," she whispered, and he offered a small nod, his gaze soft. That night, as the penthouse returned to its quiet elegance, Junho found himself thinking about the day, the laughter, the chaos, and Ayana's presence. For the first time in a long time, he wondered if life could hold something more than power. Something warm, unpredictable, and entirely worth it. The days in the penthouse had begun to blur into a rhythm of laughter, chatter, and quiet moments that felt almost stolen from the world outside. Junho found himself noticing things he had never cared about before. The way Ayana's eyes lit up when the twins smiled, the gentle way she guided them through their games, and even the soft hum of her voice as she told them stories before bed. But with each observation, a strange, unfamiliar pull tightened in his chest. He was supposed to be detached, to control everything, to protect only what mattered to him in business. Yet now he found himself wanting to protect Ayana too, Not from danger but from fatigue, from worry, from anything that might dim her light. One afternoon the twins begged to go to the park. Ayana bundled them up, their laughter echoing as they ran ahead, and Junho followed at a careful distance. He noticed how Ayana paused when the cold wind brushed against her face, tugging her scarf tighter. Without thinking, he stepped closer, his hand brushing hers as he adjusted it. The contact was brief, almost accidental, but it sent warmth up his arm. "Thank you," she said softly, glancing at him with a gentle smile that made his chest tighten in a way he didn't quite understand. At the park, the twins ran ahead again, squealing with delight. Junho watched, his eyes shadowed with thoughts he hadn't shared with anyone. Ayana turned to him, laughing as she chased after Mia, and something inside him stirred, a mixture of admiration, protectiveness, and longing. When the children finally tired, Ayana and Junho walked them home, the quiet moments stretching comfortably between them. At the penthouse door, Ayana hesitated, and Junho caught her hand in a reflexive, grounding gesture. "You don't have to carry it all alone," he murmured, his voice lower than usual. Her eyes softened. "I know," she said, "but it helps to have someone by your side." Their fingers lingered together for a heartbeat, a simple gesture that carried more meaning than words ever could. For Junho, it was confusing and exhilarating all at once. This closeness, this desire to be near her, to shield her, to stay in this quiet warmth forever. As they stepped inside, the twins tugged at Ayana's coat, calling for bedtime stories. Junho followed quietly, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. Something had shifted between them, subtle yet undeniable. And in that moment he realized that this, Ayana, the twins, the laughter, the warmth, was becoming a part of him he could no longer ignore. The calm of the penthouse was shattered one late evening by a series of phone calls that left Junho's face hard and tense. Shadows of the world he usually kept at bay had crept closer, threatening not only his business empire but now the fragile life he was beginning to cherish. Ayana noticed immediately. She had come to fetch the twins' pajamas when she found him staring out the window, jaw tight, fingers drumming against the edge of the desk. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, stepping closer. Junho turned, eyes dark but controlled. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said, but Ayana saw through the calm facade. The way his shoulders tensed, the flicker of concern in his gaze, the quiet growl in his voice, all spoke louder than words. Later, when the twins were asleep, the threat became real. A visitor had arrived, someone from Junho's past, a reminder that danger never truly disappeared. Ayana had watched him before, calm and collected in the face of business negotiations, but this was different. This was personal. Junho didn't let fear show. He moved silently, his presence commanding yet protective. Ayana, standing a few steps behind, couldn't help but notice the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, a silent reassurance that he would not let anything harm them. In that moment she felt both awe and a deep, unspoken trust. After the visitor left, Junho returned to the living room, weary but composed. Ayana approached him carefully. "You didn't have to do it alone," she whispered. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. "I didn't want you to worry," he said quietly, but she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Without thinking, she stepped closer and hugged him. It was a long, comforting embrace, one that spoke of gratitude, relief, and trust. Junho stiffened for a moment before allowing himself to relax into it, the tension in his body melting slowly as he held her back. The night passed quietly after that, but something had shifted. Ayana saw the man behind the mask. The protector, the guardian, the one capable of courage not for power but for those he cared about. And Junho, for the first time in a long while, realized that protecting someone else's heart could be as important as guarding his own empire. Morning sunlight spilled through the penthouse windows, painting the living room in gold. For once, the air felt light and ordinary, free from urgent calls or distant threats. Junho sat on the sofa, quietly sipping his tea, while Ayana and the twins prepared breakfast together. The laughter and chatter of Mia and Leo filled the room, blending with the soft hum of the city beyond the glass. As Ayana flipped pancakes, she glanced at Junho. "Do you ever think about what life could be like, without all this?" she asked, nodding toward the city beyond the penthouse and the world of danger he carried silently on his shoulders. Junho set his cup down and met her gaze. "Sometimes," he admitted quietly, "I imagine a simpler life. Peaceful mornings like this, laughter, and someone to come home to." His words were careful, almost shy, but they carried sincerity she hadn't expected from a man so often guarded. Ayana smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "I think you deserve that," she said. Not just for the kids but for you too. The twins giggled and tugged at their coats, ready for a small outing to the park. Junho helped bundle them up, showing surprising patience and tenderness. Ayana followed, guiding his hands gently as he adjusted scarves and mittens. The closeness between them felt natural, a quiet rhythm of care and trust. On the walk, the family shared small, ordinary moments. Mia pointing out flowers, Leo collecting leaves, Ayana laughing softly at their excitement. Junho watched them and then her, realizing how easy it felt to be near her, to enjoy life without masks or rules. Back at the penthouse, they spent the evening cooking together, the twins helping with small tasks and occasionally spilling flour or dropping utensils. Junho and Ayana laughed over the mess, the chaos somehow comforting. When a small splash of batter landed on her apron, he reached over and brushed it off, his fingers lingering briefly on her shoulder. The touch was light, innocent, but it carried something unspoken: closeness, trust, and perhaps the hint of something more. Later, when the twins were asleep, Ayana and Junho shared a quiet moment on the balcony. Wrapped in blankets, sipping tea, they watched the city lights twinkle below. Junho glanced at her and for the first time he allowed himself to imagine a future beyond fear and danger. A future with her, with the twins, where laughter and warmth could exist alongside him. In that moment they didn't need words. A simple brush of hands, a shared smile was enough. Their lives were slowly weaving together, one ordinary, precious moment at a time. The penthouse was quiet that evening, the soft glow of the city lights spilling through the windows. The twins were asleep, tucked into their cozy beds, their soft breathing a gentle rhythm in the background. Ayana sat on the sofa, absently folding laundry, when Junho entered, his expression unusually open, less guarded than usual. He paused, standing in the doorway as if weighing his words carefully. Ayana looked up, sensing something had shifted in the air. "Junho?" she asked softly. He began and then hesitated. Silence hung between them, heavy yet comforting. Finally he sat across from her, hands clasped loosely in his lap. "I didn't expect this, any of this," he admitted, voice low. "But I'm glad it happened. With you, with the twins, with all of you, I've realized something." Ayana leaned forward slightly, her heart quickening. "What is it?" He met her eyes, steady and sincere. "I care about you, Ayana. More than I ever thought I could care about anyone. You've brought warmth into a life that's always been cold. You've made me want a life I never believed I deserved." For a moment the room felt suspended in time. Ayana's chest tightened, her emotions swirling. She had felt the same pull, the same longing, yet she had hesitated, unsure if he could ever feel the same way. Now, hearing his confession, her own walls began to crumble. "I care about you too, Junho," she said softly, reaching out. "You've made me feel safe and happy. Something I didn't think I could ever feel again." He shifted closer, his presence commanding yet gentle. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, the words unspoken now replaced by shared understanding. Then slowly, naturally, Junho reached out and took her hand in his. Ayana felt a warmth spread through her chest as he pulled her gently into an embrace. It wasn't rushed or urgent, it was steady, reassuring, full of the promise of care and trust. She rested her head against his shoulder, and he held her close, as if keeping the world and its dangers at bay. In that quiet embrace, both of them understood that this was more than attraction. It was the start of something lasting, a love built on trust, patience, and the small, everyday moments they had shared. As the city lights flickered outside, the penthouse felt like the safest place in the world. Here, with each other and the twins, they had found a home, not just in a space but in hearts intertwined. Days flowed gently in the penthouse, each one carrying laughter, quiet conversations, and moments that felt ordinary yet extraordinary. Junho and Ayana had settled into a rhythm with the twins, and with every shared meal, bedtime story, and city walk, the bonds between them strengthened. Junho had begun to open up about his past, the burdens of his family, and the mistakes he wished he could undo. Ayana listened without judgment, her presence softening the sharp edges of his memories. "You can't change the past," she said one evening, handing him a cup of tea. "But you can shape the future, together with us." Her words settled in him like a gentle tide. For the first time in years he felt the possibility of peace, not just for himself but for the life he wanted with Ayana and the twins. The penthouse, once a fortress of solitude and control, now felt alive with warmth and love. The twins, oblivious to the complexities of adult emotions, brought joy in the simplest ways. Mia held Ayana's hand while Junho built towers of blocks with Leo, their laughter ringing through the apartment. Junho found himself laughing freely, a sound rare and treasured, and Ayana felt her heart swell watching him let go of the stoic mask he wore for so long. Later, when the children were tucked in, Ayana and Junho sat side by side on the balcony, blankets draped around them, city lights sparkling below. She rested her head lightly against his shoulder, and he instinctively wrapped an arm around her. It was a small gesture, yet it carried the weight of trust, comfort and love that had grown between them over weeks of shared moments. "I never thought I'd feel normal," Junho admitted quietly, his breath warm against her hair. "But with them, I feel like I can finally breathe." Ayana tilted her head, smiling softly. "We all heal differently, Junho. But love helps us find the courage to try again." He tightened his hold gently, a silent promise that he would protect this newfound happiness at all costs. And in that quiet evening, surrounded by the city's glow, they both understood that healing was not about forgetting the past, it was about embracing the present and building a future together. For the first time, Junho didn't feel like a man burdened by the world. He felt like a father, a partner, and a man capable of love that could last a lifetime. The morning sun streamed through the penthouse windows, casting a warm, golden glow across the room. Junho sat at the small kitchen table, sipping tea, the twins chattering excitedly about the day ahead. For the first time in what felt like forever, the penthouse was filled with calm laughter and the comforting rhythm of family life. Ayana moved through the kitchen, her hands busy with breakfast while keeping an eye on the twins. Mia and Leo ran past, giggling as they played a game of tag, their joy infectious. Junho watched them, a rare, soft smile tugging at his lips. The chaos of the past, threats, solitude and loneliness, seemed a distant memory now. Ayana set a plate of pancakes in front of him and smiled. "You're smiling," she said teasingly. "I am," Junho admitted, his eyes meeting hers. "It feels right." She leaned closer, resting a hand lightly on his arm. The gesture was simple, yet it spoke volumes: trust, closeness and love that had grown quietly but powerfully over time. After breakfast, the family prepared for a walk in the nearby park. Junho held Ayana's hand naturally, his thumb brushing hers as they walked side by side. The twins skipped ahead, shouting and laughing, completely unaware of the small, tender moments their presence had fostered between the adults. Back at the penthouse, as the afternoon sun dipped low, Ayana and Junho sat together on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Wrapped in blankets, they watched the twins play with their toys, their laughter like music. Junho shifted slightly, pulling Ayana into a gentle, lingering embrace. "We're really doing this, aren't we?" he murmured, voice low but filled with wonder. "We are," she replied softly, resting her head against his chest. "All of us. Together." In that quiet moment, surrounded by love and warmth, they understood the truth. Home was not just a place but the people who made it whole. And together they had built something unbreakable, a family bound by trust, laughter and love. The sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, and the penthouse felt alive with hope and joy. Junho, Ayana, Mia and Leo, all of them had found their forever. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story of love, family and second chances, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more inspiring tales.